We're back with another skill challenge video. This time I have 2 tweaks you can make to a skill challenge that might just be the perfect fit for a skill challenge that's about to come up in your games or something you want to think about. It allows you to do something and be able to give your players an experience that skill challenges are just so good at creating cinematic moments. Combats are great and all, but they can take a little too long. Skill challenges let your players think outside the box. These let your players use their characters in ways they never have before in some really awesome moments at the table. So I have 2 different things I'm going to break down for you, and the cool bonus here, timeout. This topic I absolutely love. I have some of the most videos on the channel about this topic. I think I've done 3 different videos on skill challenges. I'll put those down in the description. And skill challenges are a huge part of Alkander's Almanac of all things. The book is actually here. It is, this is my Kickstarter book. Chapter 3 is actually entirely about skill challenges and different ways to run skill challenge methods. And the entire chapter is on this, full of every single thing I could possibly put in here of skill challenge. I'll just put this right here. There we go. These 2 rules I actually have added since writing Alkander's Almanac. Brand new, not in the book, but if you do want to pick up the book, the link for that will be down in the description. You can pick up the PDF right now and go into the entire thing of skill challenges for every single, the tons of options you have for skill challenges. But now let's get into the breakdown of these 2 new skill challenge features. A quick rundown of a skill challenge is you have some sort of problem that you present with your characters that's not going to be solved with combat or is just a series of checks. It is a contest of checks within a certain game type setting that the players are aware of and they understand what's going on. And if they don't and you haven't ran this yet, you would explain it to them something like this. Each round, each of you will get 1 check to be able to try and make towards this skill challenge to see if you beat the skill challenge DC. Each and every check that goes on, depending on what they say and describe, you ask them for a check. They can describe any sort of thing that their character does. You would come up with what check best fits that, and they would make their check to see if they beat it. If they beat it, you describe the story progressing and the success that's being accumulated. And if they fail, you describe some sort of setback, and there's other things that can happen there. But the big thing of the whole thing is you as a dungeon master choose the DC of what this setting is for this skill challenge, and you also choose how many successes they need before 3 failures. That's in general the rule. So in general, my default setting is if I have 4 players, it's 4 successes before 3 failures. That's a super simple default. If you want to make it harder, you can add more successes needed or increase the DC. But now we're going to get into these 2 changes. What if for a skill challenge instead you needed X amount of successes before an infinite number of failures? Each failure would mean something really bad happens, and that can change depending on what the setting is or how mean you want to be with this whole thing. But there's no limit to failures, because a lot of times getting those 3 failures mean you have failed at the challenge. A lot of times if, let's say, somebody was trying to escape and run away and you start a skill challenge for a chase scene, although I do have in Alkander's Almanac an entire chase scene system, but I digress. And if you reach 3 failures, the person would got away, right? Simple. If you reach 3 failures, the thing doesn't work. Or you could always use failing forward as well. But you get the idea. In this case, no. You need a certain amount of successes to reach the actual ending of this thing. And it could get real bad with how many failures you're getting at. So if you wanted to try and escape out from underneath some of the rubble falling in on you, you could make that a skill challenge. And if you get 3 failures, maybe somebody gets trapped inside and all that kind of stuff, whoever's in the back. But in this case, let's say they're trying to escape out from a falling rubble underneath a buried mine or something like that. You need 5 successes to get out of the mines. Every failure, you're all going to take damage. Every failure, whoever made the failure, this is something I've done before, whoever failed takes 1d10 damage and the rest of the group takes half of that. Ooh, whoa. And so as failures are happening, things are happening. Bad stuff's happening. Maybe when every single time a failure happens, there's a dexterity save for everybody, for everyone to take damage if you don't want to put it singly on that person. There's so many things you can do, but there is no limit to the failures. This just puts the tension in a different aspect of the skill challenge. Instead of having 3 failures in your pocket and then, oh no, we only have 2 left. Oh no, we only have 1 failure left. And there's a lot of tension in that. And that's why in general, my default still is to have 3 failures. But in this situation, if you change it up on them sometimes, and you could fail as many times as you want until you all die. Whoa, that got a little intense there. But you could also do things that it'd have the punishment be not death or damage in some way. Maybe you were trying to loot a dragon's hoard and there's a certain amount of successes you need to be able to do it while fighting off stuff to try and escape. And maybe every failure takes 1 item out of the hoard. Or if you want to spice up a travel and have it be a skill challenge, you have to get from point A to point B, and every single failure you accumulate during the travel is an extra day's worth of travel, and you might be able to fall behind and and you need to get there within 2 days, and oh no, every single failure is a day's loss. Oh my gosh. Use this however you see fit, but it's been a really cool mind-opening part of skill challenges for me that I can use them in even more ways. Second cool tweak you can make now are success and failure ranges for those skill challenge DCs that you set. A lot of times as Dungeon Masters, it's hard to set what that DC is, because sometimes you don't want it to be too punishing on your players, and oh no, they barely failed the DC is 15 and they got a 14 or a 13, and it's like, oh no, it's a fail, and they're starting to fail, and you don't want it to be too punishing. If you want to be able to have a little bit more dynamic system here, here's my example. I've ran this before and it did feel great, and I've used this in combination with all of the other settings that we've talked about as well. So for example, let's say that the DC for the skill challenge is 15. Okay, so that means a 15 succeeds. Awesome, cool. A 16 succeeds, 17 succeeds. So 15 to 19 succeeds. Awesome, great. But if you beat the DC by 5, the DC is 15, if you beat it by 5 and you get a 20 on your check, whatever check you're making for this skill challenge, if you get a 20 on it, that is 2 successes. Whoa, and that's even more of a big epic moment. You can really double down on that description. That player's gonna feel even more like a badass for really pulling those play. I love having a double success count. Now, in general, when I run skill challenges, I have a natural 20s always count as 2, and natural 1s count as 2 as well, failures, but you get the idea. I think this is nice because a lot of times, especially in higher levels, they're gonna be able to roll higher and get those 20 pluses, and you can really evaluate kind of the big picture of what kind of numbers you're looking for here as far as how many successes you want. So that can be a really nice feeling to get those +2s thrown in there. Now, here's the part though, is 10 through 14 is a barely fail, right? They tried, they attempted something, it didn't work. This is a moment of failing forward. Instead of punishing like, nope, you failed, the thing you said, no. Instead, I would have that 10 to 14 range be neutral. It does not help, it does not harm. The skill challenge is still going. I really like this. I might even say that this could be used in skill challenges in general, where if you fail the challenge only by 3 or so, it's a neutral wash effect. And you could run the skill challenge normally, have a DC, and if you fail by only 3 or so, or even fail by 2, it's a wash, it's neutral. You could do that. It does feel good to be able to have players still actively engaging and progressing the skill challenge forward, but not screwing it up, right? They did the thing they said, but it didn't really have as much of an effect as they're hacking through the enemies and swarms that are coming in on them, but it's not like they're making any ground, they're just breaking even, right? That totally feels great and fine within the context of a story of a skill challenge. So in general, DC 15, so a 10 to 14 would be a neutral wash. 9 through 6 would be a failure, and you get 1 failure added towards your total. But this is the scary part now. What if 1 through 5 were 2 failures? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Now, under this, I will put a disclaimer. Maybe you would want to change the number of failures needed and change it to 4 or something. Because if you're getting a 1 through 5, maybe you want to do that. Myself personally, I usually still stick to 3, and I keep this in mind, and I warn them, like, if you get really low on this, it could be really bad, which also is going to make your players maybe want to work together. I have an aid ally action where if they want to spend their turn, they can make their check towards helping an ally, and the DC drops by 5, which would take this failure possibility out of the game, and they would try and make a check to be able to grant their ally advantage in some way. If they fail that check, it still counts as a failure. But if they succeed, it grants to their ally advantage, and the overall DC drops from 15 down to 10, which is way easier to do, especially if it's something you're good at, and it's a really good strategy decision to be able to move forward with this. And when I threw this at them, where a 1 through 5, if you get a 1 through 5, that means you first of all roll really bad, or you chose a skill that you have almost no modifier in. So either way, this is a more rare thing to happen, but 2 failures for a 1 through 5, I really like it because it really makes players like, oh no, and they really have to work together more. So what do you think about these 2 skill challenges things? Would you use them? Would you add your own tweaks to them? Have you watched all of my skill challenge videos and I've missed something and you have an idea about skill challenges? Have you seen all the skill challenges in Alkander's Almanac? There's a ton of stuff here, and skill challenges are one of my favorite things of the game. In my humble opinion, I think they're the 4th pillar of D&D next to combat, social encounters, exploration, and skill challenges. I love them probably too much, self-admittedly, but I hope you like these. I hope this video helps you dial up your skill challenges to 11 and keep staying creative and think outside the box. Peace.